Hello you guys, welcome to the video. We've had another successful Disney trip, which means it's time for another budget recap. We're going to be going over how much I estimated for the trip versus how much we actually ended up spending on this trip. So just to give a little bit of a kind of context to the budget, we are a family of 4. So it's me, my husband, my 3.5-year-old, and my 1.5-year-old, almost 2-year-old. And so we were traveling together as a family. We flew to Disney World. We stayed at All-Star Movies. So we stayed at a value category resort. We were there Easter week. So prime time, really busy, really expensive time to go to Disney. But it's when we chose to. It worked with our schedule, as well as Happily Ever After and Tron were coming back. So that is something that we love, and we wanted to be there for opening day nights of both of those. So we went. We ended up canceling a June trip to go in April and just do it. So that's what happened, and that's how we did it. But with this budget, I wanted to kind of go over that. I will have a link to the budget template that I'm using down in the description box if you want to go over check it out. It's created by my friend Becca Hart, who's also here on YouTube, and this thing is amazing. So if you need a budget template, go down and check that out. But just popping over to my screen record, let's jump into what I estimated, then we'll get into how much we actually ended up spending. All right, so this one is going to look a little different than the other one. This is the old version. She has an updated version that is now for sale, and you'll see that when I plan what I actually spent. But this is the old version of the template. It looks very similar, but I did want to make that note in case anybody's like, wait, why does it look different when you go to the newer budget and your updated budget? So let's look at this. So looking up at the top here, so we have our April 1st through the 5th. There it is. Our resort was All-Star Movies. Per night we paid $230, and then that came to tax and all $1,044.20, and that was for 4 nights 5 days at a value resort in early April. If we would have rented points, because I know I'll get this question, is why didn't you rent points? I know you love staying DVC. If we would have rented points and even stayed at Saratoga, it would have cost us $1,701 for a studio, and that's standard view, nothing fancy, not a preferred view or preferred room closer to the main building. And that is the most inexpensive room we could have gotten as far as renting DVC points. So a lot of times it is more cost effective to rent DVC points, but we wanted to go bare bones, absolute most budget friendly. So All-Star Movies it was. We loved the resort. I will have a review of that place coming soon, so be sure to check the channel for that and subscribe if you haven't already, so you can kind of be notified as some of those videos and vlogs from this trip go live if you want to see kind of like what spending this much money looks like. But that's what it would have cost us. Or if we would have rented that same price from Disney, it would have been $2,736 for renting a studio at Saratoga. I know that has nothing to do with what we spent, but I did want to share that for those that are curious. Most of the time renting ends up being about the same or cheaper, but in this instance it didn't, and so we went with the budget friendly option. So moving on to tickets. So looking here now at our ticket selections, we were there the 1st through the 5th. We had 2 regular park days. So we were in the parks for 2 different days there at Magic Kingdom. So we had 2 adults and 1 child. We did not do the park hopper for that. And for those 2 days in April, it cost us $903.26 after tax and all. For our Genie Plus, I had estimated that we would spend about $200, and I underestimated on that one, which you'll see in a minute. And then we did the after hours event at Hollywood Studios. That was for 1 night only, and then we had 2 adults, 1 child that we were paying for on that one, and it was $444.12. So on tickets alone to spend 3 days in the parks, we spent $1,547.38. So that's kind of what it looked like for that. Moving down to travel, we had some flight points that we were actually able to use, so we didn't have to spend a ton of money on flights, but we did end up spending $319.92, which wasn't too shabby for us. I was happy that we were able to get a little bit better of a deal on those, so that was nice. Our MCO to Disney World transportation was actually hosted, so we did not have to pay for that. We didn't use a rental car, we didn't need resort parking, and we didn't need park parking. So for our travel there, it only cost us $319.92. So not too shabby. And then moving over to the dining. So let's pop over to the dining tab so we can kind of take a look at that. So we had fast food, All-Star Movies quick service was my plan for when we got there for lunch. We did Narcoossee's for dinner, have our tip and everything calculated there. And then snacks, I personally like to budget $25 a day for snacks. So anything like you want to grab a pink donut or an extra coffee outside of breakfast or something like that, that gets covered under that budget. We go to Disney Springs and get a cookie at Gideon's. That's where you can do that. We had Trattoria Al Forno booked over at the boardwalk for breakfast, and so I had that budgeted. And I like to budget for the most expensive entree that we will personally eat. Now obviously if you don't eat meat or you're like us, you don't eat pork, you're not going to buy the most expensive pork meal. So if there's like a chicken meal that's $27 and the pork meal's $30, I budget the $27. So the most expensive thing that my family would eat. I will do that. I will budget in for a coffee. If I know we're doing breakfast, I will budget in for a French press pot of coffee because I know my husband's gonna want that when we go to breakfast there. And then I will also budget for each one of my kids to have a kids meal. That way, if they're in a hungry mood in those days while we're there, then I already have it budgeted for. But if they aren't feeling super hungry and they can split a kids meal, then we can save some money and do that. On some of these we did end up splitting, so you'll see that the cost is a little bit less than what I had estimated, but that all kind of balanced out. Then for lunch, popping over here, we have $50. I just kind of did a flat 50 for lunches and dinners and a flat 30 for breakfast. I didn't have a lot planned as far as where we were going to eat. I kind of left that to be a little more spontaneous, and so that's what that looked like. We had an evening of Roundup Rodeo barbecue for dinner, so I had the budget for that. And then our other meal was Crystal Palace there. That was not estimated to be $30. I don't know why it's showing like that. Hold on, let's fix this. That's what that should have been. My apologies. I should have checked that before getting on here. But that's kind of what that looked like. And again, $50 for lunch, $50 for dinner, and then the $25 snacks. So that's how that ended up looking. We didn't have a ton of dining. We didn't do one for every single day that we were there. But there on the second, we did have a double up with Trattoria and Roundup Rodeo barbecue. So now that you've seen what I estimated, and so our estimation, including spending $300 for like souvenirs, kind of divided out between the four of us, spending or having that budgeted in, we had a budget of $4,462.82. So that was for a value resort. I like to over budget, especially when it comes to food. I like to over budget and then come in under budget versus like doing bare bones or budgeting based on splitting meals, because sometimes you get there and you're like, I'm actually really hungry and I don't feel like splitting right now, or you both want two totally different things and you're like, okay, let's do both, and then we can like share and like sample different things. So sometimes it's better to budget for more and come home with money than to not budget enough and come home like you spent more or whatever. So that's just how I personally like to budget. But let's pop over to the actually what we spent. Okay, so what we actually ended up spending is the resort totals did not change, so that stayed the same. And then coming down here to our park tickets, the park tickets didn't change at all. So this is kind of where the budget template has changed just a bit for her. She's split it out into Genie Plus and tickets and just kind of upgraded it. So I'm really excited about this one. So if you download the template, this is the one you're going to get. That ended up spending, where I had $200 budgeted for Genie Plus, I ended up spending $263.68 because Genie Plus decided to do a nice jump. I think I was budgeting for around $30 per person for those, and it ended up being $35 plus tax. And then we did the individual lightning lane for Tron, which I completely forgot to budget for. So that ended up being an extra. As far as transportation and travel, that did not change. It was still at $319.92. And then when it comes to dining, let's pop over to the dining tab. So for that, day one, we just picked up some Burger King at the airport. We did some French toast sticks, and that was like what was in our area, so we grabbed that really quickly. It ended up being $19.05 instead of $30, which was nice. We did a quick service at movies. We each got our own meal, and then the girls split a piece of pizza, so that ended up being $40.91, so not too shabby. We come in under budget there. At Narcoossee's, we ended up tip and all spending $124.68, which I think was close in budget to what I had estimated to spend. We just decided to split an entree, and then we also did an appetizer and an additional side instead. So it kind of balanced out with those prices versus buying an addition or buying 2 adult entrees, if that makes sense. On day 2, we did our trattoria al forno, came in pretty close to budget on that. I think it was slightly under at $62.19. We did breakfast in the room. I had ordered groceries, and so we did have that back at the room. So we had some like breakfast bars that morning. And then that evening we did Roundup Rodeo, which came in at $147.48, including tip and tax and everything. And that was for the 3 of us to eat. My 1.5-year-old isn't charged, so if you have a little one under 3 years old, they won't be charged and they can still eat as well. They just eat off your plate, or they'll bring out a little bit extra, like if it's family style, like here at Roundup Rodeo. So that's what that looked like. The next day we had a late night, so we just didn't eat breakfast at all. I think the girls maybe had a snack bar in the room and that was it. And then we headed over to Magic Kingdom. We did a kind of lunch thing there. I took peanut butter sandwiches for the girls because that's what they're like really into right now. So we did PBs for them, and then I did the egg rolls, and Dean did a Sleepy Hollow, which came to $30.88 for the 2 of us to eat. So definitely under $50, which was nice. We did Pecos Bills for dinner, which was $36.58. And you'll see a lot of these days we ended up not even doing snacks. We ate our own snack bars. So that $25 just came right off. The next day we did Crystal Palace breakfast. It came in at $146.74, again for 3 people to eat. My baby girl ate 2, but it was not charged. So that's what it looked like tip and all for us to eat there for breakfast. And then coming down, Columbia Harbor House is where we had our lunch, and that was $24.57 for the 2 of us. That's another day we took lunches for the girls. We took them peanut butter sandwiches and strawberries, and they had cheese sticks. So they were content and happy. And then my husband and I actually got a meal there, and then also got an additional side and just split that. So that's why another reason it was a little bit less on the budget there. That evening we did Casey's, and it was $22.86 for just like some chili cheese fries, and then 1 order of the mini corn dogs, the corn dog bites. So that's what we did there, not too shabby. And then on our checkout day we did breakfast and lunch at the quick service. So for breakfast it was $31.24. We did a couple of little breakfast meals and then a little kids breakfast meal for the girls to split. So all of that came to that $31.24. And then for lunch we just split a large cheese pizza, which was great, and it fed our family. We enjoyed it, and that came to $20.41. And with all of these, with the exception of a couple of the sit-down restaurants, we did we always drank water. We had water with us, or bottled water from the room. We have our refillable bottles that we take with us, so we'll either pour more water into those, or if we need to, we can run in and grab like water from a quick service and we'll put that in there, whatever we need to do. But we just really enjoy that. Plus it keeps it colder for longer, which ice cold water is just so nice in Florida and that heat. So that's what we did. That night back at the airport we grabbed some Panda Express for $24.84, and then during that day while we were out and about we went to Disney Springs and we got some Gideons. Now all of these cookies were not ours. We did not spend $60 in cookies for ourselves. We did bring some home to family that also likes cookies, but we spent $60.70 on, let's see, 7 cookies, 7 or 8 cookies, and then 2 tubs of icing. Oh, and a cold brew. So that's kind of what that looked like, but it brought our grand total of dining to only $798.23, which, eating at Disney for that price for a family of 4, I didn't feel like it was too bad. So I was really happy when I came home and looked at all of that. And then when it comes to merchandise, we ended up spending $239.51, so not too shabby there as well. And so just as an overall review and like how the prices varied, so originally we had budgeted this at $4,462.82, but we ended up only spending $4,012.92, you guys. But I hope this helps give you kind of an idea of like what a budget for Disney can actually look like. For some people they may spend $10,000, and for some people they may spend $2,000, and they may be even more crafty with their budget than me, but You know, this just gives you a jumping off point and an idea of kind of what it looks like to spend at Disney and kind of what things cost. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what you would need to budget for and what would be realistic, because it's easy to see the vlogs and then you think, oh, well, Disney's expensive and this may not be expensive to you. And you may be like, whoa, that's not expensive at all. We spend $4,000 just going to the beach, or we spend $4,000 just doing whatever. And so it all depends on what is realistic for you. So I hope this helps and kind of gives you an idea of what it can look like. But again, if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to click the thumbs up button down below, as well as the red subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.